Physician who's had my license for 40 years and had a very strong biochemistry background. I can say, and seeing what's happening with the X39, I can say without a doubt that this is the most significant medical breakthrough in my lifetime.
Hi everybody, welcome. Maria Benardis from the Quantum Light Code Super Channel. And as everybody knows, 2023, I was voted the #1 on the top 10 list of health and wellness coaches disrupting the medical industry. And I have another lovely doctor today that's joining me that I will introduce in a minute that is also disrupting the medical industry and helping the medical industry. And this is what we will be discussing today. His wonderful book that I've read twice. So I'm just going to go into a brief bio of Dr. Harmon, and then we will welcome him. So as a young boy, Dr. Harmon received so much benefit from chiropractic that he decided he wanted to be a doctor of chiropractic. Very early on in his life, this has always been his passion. He attended the University of Utah and has a BS or Bachelor of Science degree in human biology. After graduating summa cum laude, I hope I pronounced that correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, from the Los Angeles College of Chiropractic in 1989, he settled in Boise, where he has been practicing ever since. He is married to Carla Harmon, and is the father of 8 children. Boy, that was a surprise to me. 8 children. Oh my God, you've been busy. And grandfather of 19, everybody. Oh my God. He is passionate about helping people with their health. He enjoys working out, staying fit, eating healthy, and spending time with his family. He was awarded his certification in extremity adjusting in the late 90s and is the developer of some specialized adjustments for sternum, ribs, and collarbone misalignments, and is currently teaching other doctors how to do them. So this is just brief. He does so many things, and when I welcome Dr. Harmon, he may want to add more. He has a practice in Idaho, Clear Mind, Idaho. And today we are going to be discussing this amazing book, How to Reverse Aging. And everybody, it's available on Amazon, and directly underneath this video, it will be the first link. There will be a link directly to Amazon where you can purchase it. And definitely all my partners in my business, this is compulsory reading, so you must purchase. And for everybody else that wants to be healthy and wants to reverse age and look as fabulous as we do. So welcome, Dr. Harmon.
Thank you very much. I didn't realize that you had grabbed the old description. It's actually 26 grandkids now.
Oh my goodness me. Well, we better amend that on the on the website. My goodness me. And 6 and 2 is 8, which is the universal number of infinity. Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing. Yeah, it
Wow.
was. There's one more on the way right now, actually.
Wow.
So yeah, between my wife and I, we have 10 children, and on her side, there's only 2, and on my side, I have 8. So most of those grandkids are mine, not ours together, but it's one big happy family. But it makes things interesting, and I know for sure I will never be lonely.
That's amazing. So welcome and thank you, for agreeing, to spend your valuable time with me today. So as an introduction for people, because I have read the book, and I have to say I found it very easy reading. It wasn't one of those books where I found, oh my goodness me, too many technical terms. I'm getting a bit lost. I don't understand what is going on here. So I just wanted to put that out there. So, what we are focusing on today, everybody, is basically everybody knows how important copper is. I have, discussed this in many of my videos, and how that was very important to people in the 1800s for the health and wellness. And then somehow it just kind of disappeared. We're going to be talking about copper peptides, which you hear me speaking about all the time, but especially the 2 that are mentioned in this amazing book, GHK and AHK, which have, and this is from the book, which have the potential to enhance overall health and reverse the signs of aging. And who doesn't want to be healthy and look young? So please note, it is equally important. So this is my side note. So we are talking about everything in here, but I'm sure Dr. Harmon will agree with me. It's not just about what we're going to discuss today. You also have to be eating a very high vibrational frequency diet of mind, body, spirit. And I have videos on that. And I have another one called the Ascension Diet. So please, everything that we discussed today must be done in tandem to what I discuss in those videos. So very important. And when you combine all of this and everything that Dr. Harmon will enlighten us with today, there's no reason why your age wouldn't be reversing, and why you wouldn't be healthy. So that's just to put it in a framework. And so, Dr. Harmon, I wanted to ask the first question: is what inspired you to write this amazing book?
Thank you very much for that question. I was hoping that I would get a chance to talk about that. I had so much benefit from using and elevating my GHK copper peptide and I had so many profound shifts in my heart health that I started digging into, how did this happen? And it was a little bit difficult because I had to dig through a bunch of, research papers on PubMed, National Institute of Health. And I had this, it was like this download. It went like this: you need to compile all of the research regarding this peptide and then tell people how they can get it. Well, it turns out you can get them in infusions, injections, you can get them in lotions and creams and shampoos from dermatologists, or you can wear this photobiomodulation patch that David Smith developed. They showed that wearing that patch elevates the GHK copper peptide. So, and then I walked a fine line. I did not want it to be a promotion for any product. I didn't want it to be an advertisement. So I did not mention the name of the patch or the company. It was just next chapter. This is how you get it. Move on to the next chapter. But it was from the profound changes I had in my heart health that motivated me to do that. And I had put together 3 different PowerPoint presentations over a 3-year period. And that resulted in having a lot of that information and put it into a book.
Yep, yep. And I like the fact, just on that point that you said, that you really presented all the options towards the end of the book in terms of how you can activate them, and didn't really pinpoint on a particular product. So I really like that approach, because sometimes, although we have our favorite ones, obviously, that we use, and I'll
Sure.
point out which one I use at the very end. I like that approach, because it's more or less, I'm presenting all the options. Take one that resonates with you. But as far as I was concerned, even if I didn't know anything about copper peptides, to me, there was a clear winner there at the end
Right.
for me, and I'm sure people will work that one out for themselves. So that's amazing. Thank you for that. Well, before we go into the GHK and AHK copper peptides, I wanted us to briefly, I wanted to ask you and to talk about why copper is so important in our diet. And one of the things that I do say to a lot of my clients, especially the ones that come to me and say, I have an iron deficiency, when I go back and study the 1800s and the health practices they were using back then, and that was so healthy, is what I notice is we're really suffering from a copper deficiency as opposed to an iron deficiency. And when I get my clients on I beg your pardon, copper, I usually find it kind of, again, fixes the iron deficiency. And again, we're not giving medical advice. I'm just giving you my personal experience from my clients. So please always speak to your doctor about these things before you do anything very important. So Dr. Harmon, over to you. Why is copper important for us, and how much should people be looking at taking each
Well,
day?
that, to your point there about the iron, copper is needed for the absorption of iron and the transport of iron and the incorporation of iron into hemoglobin. So somebody could have, and this happens a lot, and I've seen it over my 35-year practice. Someone will go, they'll have their blood test done, they're low in iron, the doctor gives them more iron. Well, that didn't help. Well, the reason is probably because they were copper deficient. So the copper is needed for those things, but also it's needed to actually make neurons, synapses, neurotransmitters, and BDNF. We'll talk about that if you want, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. You have to have copper. It's the GHK copper peptide that escorts it through the blood-brain barrier so that you can get it into your brain. So that's that connection there. And then a lot of times people will say, well, isn't copper toxic? And too much iron, or excuse me, well, either too much copper or not enough copper is not good. So when I first heard about GHK copper peptide and the fact that it holds on to copper until it's needed, it made sense to me. And I had this theory right from the beginning. You know what? If you don't have enough GHK copper peptide, you may have an overload of free copper in your brain or in your body. But the GHK is an escort. And now it's not free. It's incorporated into that peptide. So copper, I always tell people, if you're going to try to elevate your copper peptide, we need to have copper as a resource. And so a really good way of getting that is chlorophyll. You can take a dropper full of chlorophyll in water that doesn't taste, there's not much of a taste. You can get it in seafoods, organ meats, nuts and seeds, green leafy vegetables. So if your diet is poor, you'll need to supplement with copper.
Yeah. And one of my favorite ways is we have very good chocolate here, pure chocolate here in Hawaii, and
Yes,
I have
you
some
do.
farms not far from me. So I like to have a dark chocolate without the sugar, which can be very bitter. A little bit of that to make sure
Very,
that I get my copper.
very pleasurable source of copper.
So I have a bit of that.
What island are you on?
Sorry?
What
On,
island are you?
on Oahu. So I'm just at Waikiki. So if you're ever this
Oh,
way,
I'm so sorry.
look me up. Yeah. Well, it's quite a contrast. I came from New York City. I was there for just over 10 years, but it just got a little
Yeah,
bit
that's
too
a big
much.
change. That's a
Yeah,
huge
it's
change.
a big, a big change. So, so as a suggestion, as a guideline, I can't remember what it was. You do outline, just as a guide, approximately how much copper people should look to taking on a daily basis. How much was that, Dr. Harmon? I'm so sorry, I can't remember. I did see it in the book, though.
It is in the book, and I can't remember right now either.
I can't remember
I
every
don't
month.
supplement with it.
Oh,
I get it
yeah,
in natural form.
yeah,
Yeah, and
me too.
that's how I recommend my patients get it
Yeah.
too.
Buy the book. It's all in there.
Yeah.
We go. That was a good little thing there. So let's now lead into because this is all about copper. So what is GHK? And again, everybody, it's all in here. What is GHK and AHK, and why are they so important? And I could see that there was a linkage to stem cell release for regeneration and repair. But let's get people to understand what these two peptides are, please.
Sure. The GHKs, glycine, histidine, and lysine, they're combined together in a chain. They are amino acids that are hooked together, and they form this nice little complex that grabs onto, can hold copper. Copper is very unique in that it's a +2 mineral where you can carry around 2 electrons. So you can donate 1 or you can donate 2. So what does that mean? That means certain pathways are activated with that little switch, the copper. And in addition, the other side of it, the amino acids, the peptide part of it is used in building things like collagen. So you have this out in your bloodstream, and then something happens. The GHK is known as the emergency response peptide. So think about that. What happens? What has to happen if you're out in battle? Anciently, if this dude, big tall dude, gives me a gash in my thigh. Now I have this gaping wound. I'm going to die unless something happens really quickly. When you understand the functions of that GHK copper peptide, you'll know why it's called the emergency response peptide, because the body just sends it out to the wound site. It chemo attracts, not like chemotherapy or anything, but it attracts new capillary growth into that wound, into the site. So you can rapillary get the capillaries. You can rapidly get capillaries into that tissue to get oxygen back in there so it lives. Also rapidly speeds up wound healing. Also it basically turns on the genes that tell your body to make more stem cells. So there's your emergency response: rapid wound healing and stem cell activation, rapid infiltration of capillary growth into tissue. Now I might live with that big gaping wound in my thigh, across my thigh muscles. So those are some of the things. And one of the most important things I think that everyone needs to know when you start using GHK, elevating your GHK, infusion, whatever it is, our entire body has a collagen matrix. Our bones, the protein matrix is made of collagen. Our skin, our organs, everything has a collagen base. So when you consider that it's the GHK that repairs and rebuilds collagen, what is it affecting? Everything. Our arteries, our veins are all made of collagen. So there are many, many benefits. Perhaps we'll talk about the cardiovascular benefits, but that's kind of like the basis that someone needs to understand, that it repairs and rebuilds collagen, which is basically our body.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do have, after the next question, uh, briefly just going through some of your chapters from 7 onwards where you do cover some specific
Okay.
areas, and one of them is cardiovascular. So we'll go into great detail with that. But I can certainly validate the whole wound and actually scars from wounds from personal experience, because I've had a lot of surgery because I've been in car accidents, actually cars hitting me as opposed to me being in the car, and also a lot of major surgery to remove sort of cysts. And one of them was like 3/4 of my left lung, and they made a huge incision down my back. And really interesting, by activating here, I've got so many scars, it's not funny. And by activating my copper peptides, what I've noticed is I can hardly see those wounds. And
Yeah.
it's like I'm struggling, like you wouldn't believe that I've actually had all this surgery when you look at those parts of my body that have been removed because I activated the copper peptides, as you discuss in this book. And guess what? The wound and all the scars are healing.
Exactly. And that's one of the properties that I talked about collagen repair, but the other thing is collagen destruction. Why would you want to destroy collagen? Scar tissue has a haphazard, deposition. Quick, we got to heal this. We got to patch it up really quickly. And then the body isn't paying attention to lining up those fibers so that they're stretchy. So it's the GHK that can break those cross linkages, and then you have more normal tissue. My daughter just sent me several pictures. My granddaughter she had a really bad 2nd-degree burn,
Oh,
and it blistered up about that much. And she has the X39, but she didn't think of putting it on there. And I said, honey, put that right next to that wound right there. And then she sent me some pictures. She said after 4 days, the 2 weeks of severe pain that she was told she would have, now it looks like it wasn't even there. It was
wow.
so rapid in my granddaughter. So yeah, very beneficial in helping smooth that skin, and that even deep scars, that have this big valley can smooth out. And I've seen that happen in lots of people over the last 4 years.
Yeah, it's amazing. As a side note, before the next question, I wanted to say how much I appreciated the fact that you referenced in your book Dr. Lauren Pickard's studies, because I certainly have been reading a lot of the studies. And I thank you for putting those as supporting evidence of the studies that were undertaken there, which really support a lot of what we're going to discuss in a minute, which is going through the cardiovascular and some of the other chapters that you cover in detail. I mean, of course, everybody, we cannot cover everything in detail. We're just going to really briefly skim through what you can expect. But I just wanted to say that as a side note, I was very excited to see that. So the next question I had before we go into the specifics, you also provide a link between copper peptides and DNA, and of course the DNA repair connection. I was very excited to see that, and I would like you, to discuss something on that briefly, because I've always said to people there is very much a DNA and cell connection. And very important that as you're repairing your cells by activating these copper peptides, eating the right food and so on, and putting the right nutrition into those cells, you can't help but repair also the DNA. It's connected. It's not separate. So I just wanted you to just briefly, DNA and the cell. And of course, there's lots more details in here, everybody. Yeah.
And there are two things regarding the genes, two things that cause us to age faster and die younger. First of all, our telomeres. That's the ending of our genes that hold the chromosomes together. And when we have to divide, they have to separate and come back together. And in that process, during that process, there's a little length that's lost. I know you know that, but some of your readers don't. And you have to think of it like the ending of your shoelace. It's the plastic cap. And it holds those chromosomes together. I call it a throwaway piece, because you lose a little length, but it's not part of your genes. So it allows that cell to divide, come back together. Even though it's a little shorter, the cell can still live. Once those telomeres all of that length is gone, that cell dies. GHK actually is beneficial in helping to repair those. But the other thing is, our damage to our genes, our chromosomes, from things like radiation, chemicals, toxins, that if it builds up in the cell, we have a urinary tract in the bowel to get rid of stuff that's going to hurt us if we keep it in. So we have to get rid of it. And sometimes if we don't do that, we can actually get damage to the genes. The GHK has been shown in the literature to repair very quickly 4,200 of our genes that have been oxidized or something's happened, and radiation. So it helps repair those, so that cell that had the damaged gene doesn't die. So very quickly that happens. That's from the research of Dr. Lauren Picard. And so there's that, the genes undergo oxidative stress, oxidation, meaning they've been damaged. The GHK helps repair it, but also helps protect it. So if further damage occurs, if you have ample GHK in your blood, it repairs the genes, and then those cells can live on. So that is one of the reasons they call it the reverse aging, because the rapid repair of those genes back to a younger state.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Harmon. So I wanted to go into now, and then of course from chapter 7 and onwards, you have like chapters that concentrate on each of these that I will outline, one by one, because we won't remember them all. So basically, you outline what the impact of these copper peptides are to the human body. And then you have chapter by chapter, which I really enjoyed, going through each particular one, and I will go down that list in a minute. And of course, we've already discussed wound healing, so we won't go into that. And, we're now going to go into detail in terms of bone health, anti-aging, and so on. So this is from chapter 7 onwards, everybody. So I wanted to cover chapter 7, and we're just giving a little bit of a brief, not, the whole sort of chapter, so that they can read the book. But chapter 7 outlines the first benefit that we can expect by activating our copper peptides, which is the immune system. So I wanted, just generally what you had to say on that.
Yes, it helps activate SOD, which is superoxide dismutase. Consider that to be your Navy SEALs and your Marines. If something happens, that's there to take care of business. And also, when you have bacterial or viral or some kind of pathogen, your body undergoes a lot of oxidative stress, and GHK helps undo that because of the antioxidant properties that it has. So it assists in the immune system, immune function in that way. Copper is necessary for the function of SOD, and it's GHK that delivers it. So that's one of the big benefits.
Yeah, amazing. So already we're hearing everybody helps with your immune system by activating it. So the second one, which we've touched on, but you have a chapter, which is chapter 8, is the skin. And we've already sort of discussed, the wound healing and sort of alerted to the collagen. Was there anything else that you wanted to add to that in terms of a brief on that chapter? Yeah.
Yes, there are a couple things. As we age, our skin gets thinner as our collagen, basically thickness, starts to decrease. So we don't have the fullness in our skin, and then the skin looks wrinkled because there's nothing that holds it out into the nice, smooth, plump shape. So it's the GHK that's, we talked about collagen, our skin collagen, helps repair that, but also elastin. It's essential in making elastin, which makes it flexible. We'll talk about when we talk about the cardiovascular system, how important that is in our arteries. Strength, both strength and elasticity. But those are the key things about the skin. So it's known to plump the skin back out, so it's not, thin and saggy and wrinkly. Yeah. And so it plumps it out, helps keep the collagen nice and healthy and young and plump, and also helps rebuild the elastin that makes it more flexible. So if something's flexible, when we smile, we get the lines. If it's flexible and it can come back, then we don't have the deep lines and wrinkles. And it's known for that. And the dermatology field was one of the first to embrace this in their products that have GHK in them to help with the cosmetics. I used to tell my chiropractic patients when I was still doing chiropractic, they'd come in, they have this back thing going on, and I tell them, we're going to help you and fix you, but I want you to do these exercises every day. 6 months later, they're back in with the same problem. And I say, did you do your exercises? And they say, no. I said, you know what? You would take better care of your spine if it was on your face.
Yeah. And I can validate what you've just said about the skin. I'm very blessed. A lot of people look at me when I did videos years ago as to the current year and actually don't recognize me. And you can probably vouch for this, Dr. Harmon, that I'm not making it up. I'm nearly 60 and I don't have one wrinkle on my face.
Oh my gosh, that's so great.
And this is the power of activating your copper peptides. Guys, I'm not making it up. Dr. Harmon's seen me in real life.
I'm going to be 70 in a couple of months. And, I have laugh lines and things, but.
You look amazing, as does your wife, I have to say.
Oh, thank you. She's going to be your age. She's going to be 60 on her next birthday.
Oh, gorgeous. So chapter 9, which leads on to what you said before, is our cardiovascular system. So activating copper peptides, everybody, benefits your cardiovascular system.
And so this is my favorite topic because it's the number one killer. And that's what caused, my motivation to go find answers. Why did it have such a tremendous benefit for my heart? Why can't I run up the hill in the foothills behind our house where before I had a hard time hiking up the hill, and it felt like my heart was going to pound out of my chest. But here's the scoop about the cardiovascular system. In order to build the whole thought of what kind of effects it would have, if you think about stroke and heart failure. So stroke, the number one predictor that someone will have a stroke is an increased or high fibrinogen level. What is that? Fibrinogen is naturally in our blood to make our cells a little sticky. They have to have a little stickiness to them in case you get a cut. You don't want to just bleed out. The red blood cells have to stick together, and you got other things, clotting factors. But fibrinogen, if the fibrinogen level gets too high, now your cells are too sticky, and you're eventually going to form some kind of a clot. However, it starts small and gets bigger and bigger. But it's the number one predictor of stroke. You are 2.5 times more likely to have a stroke if you have a high fibrinogen level. The GHK inhibits a gene that's involved in making fibrinogen. So it helps to keep that at a normal level. So you are much less likely to have a stroke because of a high GHK level. The other thing it does, it activates myostatin production. Myostatin inhibits heart failure. But here's the other thing. You know how in a bodybuilding contest, one of the things they look at is, look at the vascularization on that guy. Well, that starts with the GHK copper peptide. And go with me here for a second. When a muscle, whether it's a cardiac muscle or a skeletal muscle, the muscles that you move your bones around, there's a whole process that has to happen when your body senses there's not enough oxygen. Hypoxia. So I don't have enough oxygen. Your body senses that. It starts a process through, it's called hypoxia inducible factor 1. So when the alarm goes off, there's not enough oxygen, the process is supposed to be GHK goes on site, activates enzymes to basically poke holes in the muscle to grow new capillaries into it so that you have a bigger source of oxygen and blood, whether it's the heart or the muscle, the skeletal muscles. So if you don't have that GHK and then you have a heart muscle that's not getting enough oxygen long enough, what is that? Well, that's a heart attack. That's a myocardial infarction. So the GHK's involvement in making sure there are enough capillaries going in and arteries to bring in that oxygen supply is applicable to the heart muscle and the rest of your muscles. But it starts with that.
Yeah, amazing.
And then you add in the arteries, strength and flexibility. If they don't have the strength, then you're more likely to have an aneurysm. If they don't have the flexibility, you're more likely to have high blood pressure because they can't expand and contract.
Yeah, amazing. Which again leads so beautifully to the next chapter, chapter 10, in terms of another positive impact and benefit of activating the copper peptides, which is athletic performance. And as we know, there's a lot of people wearing the wearable technology that we'll reveal when we get to that page as one of the recommendations, which the Olympic sports team, activated their copper peptides to break records. We have NFL players that are wearing it. We have marathon runners. And guys, you've seen the videos that I've put on all these people that are using what's in this book to activate the copper peptides to break records. So let's go into athletic performance, Dr. Harmon.
Yeah, I'm doing a 4-part series on an NBC affiliate in Norfolk, Virginia, and it's in the lead up to the Olympics because of the effect on athletic performance. So when you consider that athletic performance, you have several things that have a role there, and that is, do I have enough energy to go the distance? The GHK influences an enzyme in the mitochondria in the final step of producing energy, so ATP. So if you can do that, he who makes more energy can stay in the game and stay in the fourth quarter and have enough energy to get the job done. On the other side, the GHK helps with transporting oxygen throughout the body. So there's that, but also, I'll never forget the first time that I heard that. I was a news watcher as a kid, and I was watching the news, and they said the exercise is harmful at first. I thought, that's kind of weird, but they were talking. I didn't know it then. I was in high school, but they were talking about oxidative stress. So when you go work out, why do you get sore? Well, there's a lot of oxidative stress, a lot of lactic acid, and so the GHK helps rapidly repair that oxidative stress. So now you got two things: more energy, and less soreness, and a greater repair of the oxidative stress. So you stay longer in the gym or on the field, and you can get back into the gym or out on the field quicker because you don't have the soreness. What's there not to like about that as an athlete?
Amen.
Right?
Yep. Amen. Amen. Which is what most people at the gym complain about. It's their recovery time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I gotta, I can't do arms again because, I can't even lift a dumbbell,
Yeah.
a
Got to
barbell.
skip that one for today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to
Yeah.
skip that one. I've noticed that about myself.
Mm.
Going to be 70, and I've been trying to build muscle. There's actually they don't have elegant studies about it yet, but there's some talk about it actually being involved in muscle building
Mm.
because of the fact that I mentioned about how it's involved in getting more capillary growth. Well, you have to have more resources to build bigger muscles. It's collagen building and collagen repair, bigger muscles, more highways to get in the nutrients and the protein and the collagen to build that muscle.
Yep, yep. So it's all related. And now we're going into chapter 11, and the heading is all about metabolic regulation. So that's another benefit of activating the copper peptides.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of talk about, weight management. You know, it's not, there aren't companies that talk about that. But as you've probably noticed in yourself that there's a difference, and we see, that people, they have a before and after picture, and that some of the weight comes out of their face or around their waist, and it's, we don't really talk about that, but it
Yeah.
optimizes energy production, and it has an effect on all systems, the
Mm.
endocrine system that helps with weight management, the thyroid,
Hormones.
all of
Hormones
it.
as well. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I have an amazing, lovely partner, and she lost so much weight without changing anything else other than introducing, David Schmidt's amazing technology of activating copper peptides. And everybody was in shock, like at the choir, they just didn't recognize. I said, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" Well, she says, I've only changed one thing and added this wearable technology. So I can validate with evidence that it has happened, to people, that I know. So it's very real. And a lot of them, including me, I have found that my hormones are more balanced. And another amazing thing that I noticed, Dr. Harmon, was I didn't have the hot flashes like other women do when I went through the change,
That's
because I
cool.
activated the copper peptides. And everybody else, in my family has had complained about, oh, I'm sweating and I'm this. And I said, I don't know what you're all talking about. I'm just not getting any of that. And it's like I wouldn't even know I was going through the change, but for one obvious thing that we all know, which I won't go into. So I noticed that as well, just putting it out there.
Yeah, and just a little bit back on the metabolic. If you have more energy, you're not sitting around as much. You can do things longer throughout the day, better moving around because I have enough energy. Why do we stop moving? Well, I don't have enough energy.
Yeah.
But if you can make more ATP and you have more energy, then you're going to be moving around. That uses calories as well.
Yeah, amazing. So then on to chapter 13, and of course, it's all about neo regeneration.
Yeah, there are 3 chapters on the brain. So there's neuroregeneration.
Cognitive function. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we might
So,
combine those if you like. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. We lose on average 9,000 neurons a day through apoptosis. Our body kills off 50 to 70 billion cells a day because they're old. And the same is true in the brain. Or neurons that we don't use, we'll kill those off first. So we lose about 9,000. We only replace somewhere between, and I've read different amounts, 2,000 to, as I've heard, as much as 5,500. There's still a net loss of thousands of neurons every day.
Yeah.
And I tell people or ask them, what are you doing to increase the regeneration, and what are you doing to decrease the destruction or the death of neurons? And the GHK plays a vital role in that whole process. In several ways, you have to have the copper that gets into the brain. It's the GHK that carries it there. You have to have copper to make new neurons, make new synapses, make neurotransmitters, make brain-derived neurotropic factor, and that's called BDNF. What is that? If you do something for at least a minute a day, your brain gets the message, she's probably wanting to do that again. So let's make hundreds of more connections so she can have finer control over it. This is neuroplasticity. We do a new task. We read something new. We learn how to dance. We learn to play an instrument. We need lots of new neurons to do that. And so that's what BDNF is. You have to have copper to make it. So the GHK facilitates the construction, if you will, the regeneration of all of those things, the components of the brain. But it also, in the brain study that was done, using this wearable technology, and they did brain maps. That's what my board certification is in, quantitative EEG. So they did one of those, and they measured what's called coherence, and that's the amount of crosstalk between lobes. So the right and left hemispheres do different things, but similar. They're related, but you have to have connecting. You have to have crosstalk in order to compare notes. Okay, well, I saw this. What did you see? Did you see any numbers over there? Yeah, I saw numbers, but what color were they? You know, the brain's talking back and forth. So if you have a normal amount, that's called the coherence is just normal crosstalk. Hypercoherence is where it's all jammed up. There's too much going on. It's like a traffic jam. I call traffic jam on Eagle Road here. It's the busiest street in Idaho. And hypercoherence, the more hypercoherence one has, the more autistic we are. Or you can have hypocoherence, that's cognitive decline. Well, using the wearable technology brought the hypercoherence down and the hypocoherence up more to normal values.
Wow.
That is beneficial for the brain.
Amazing. Which then leads, I beg your pardon, to chapter 15, which I can definitely vouch for, and I have many, many testimonials on this. By activating the copper peptides, really what people will notice is the healing power, basically overall healing and disease prevention is what we're talking about here. So I'll let you, briefly talk about that.
Through stem cell activation, right?
Yeah, through stem cell activation, which leads to chapter 16 and unlocking age reversal. Yeah.
Yes. So the interesting thing is that genes, as we know, have about 2,600 different expressions, but genes can be oxidized and they can't signal your body to do a certain thing. We call it coding. It doesn't code to do this. Well, that gene, the GHK, actually activates the genes that are responsible to activate production of your own stem cells. Stem cells are cells that haven't decided what they want to be when they grow up yet. They're born, so to speak, and they go out in the world and they say, hey, there's some bone needs to be replaced. I'll become a bone cell. So they can become any cell that is needed for the day. Right then, the most pressing things are where those stem cells will go. If you get an injection of billions of stem cells, that's like a flash in the pan. You're getting one big thing, and if you're too inflamed, a lot of those are going to die as a result of the excessive inflammation. But if you can elevate your production of your own stem cells, it changes everything. And up until this time in our history, no doctor has been able to make this statement or think it in his mind. You know what? Before I make that prognosis, I need to consider that this person is going to be elevating their copper peptide every day, which will activate their stem cells. So I'm not going to be so doubtful or negative on my prognosis because it changes everything. There's not one thing in your body that can't benefit from elevating your own stem cells. And this is why globally we have people telling these fantastic stories of things that just went poof, as my daughter says it. Daddy, it went poof. So how do you describe something you don't have? It just went poof.
Yeah.
And so do we cure things? We don't say that. We just help the body get everything it needs to take care of business on its own.
Amen.
And that's how I explain it.
Yeah, amen. And the reason why I got very excited about all this area and what you discuss in your book, it's because I practice the ancient Greek way of healing, which is basically Hippocrates, Theophrastus, all those ancients. That's what I've studied in. And what did they use in ancient Greece? Light therapy, which leads on to the next point and what you outline in chapter 18, which is photobiomodulation. But, they did it in such a difficult way where they had different colored glass lined up and then kind of had the sun and other sort of lights shining through that to get the right frequency. But guess what? It worked. And, as you outlined, in chapter 18, one of the many ways to do this is, of course, David Schmidt's technology. And guys, you all know what I use. It's this. This is photobiomodulation, which activates basically the copper peptides. So do you want to briefly let us know what photobiomodulation is from a doctor point of view? Because a lot of people are like, Maria's talking about glass in ancient Greece minutes.
Well, there's a lot of talk that stained glass in churches was anciently meant for healing, and the bells as well.
Sound frequencies as well.
How they demolished all of the bells globally to get more metal for the wars, but I have a different idea about that. So
yes, I agree with you on that. Yes, sorry, go on.
I have different lasers in my office for different things, and it's just like Einstein predicted. Laser light will increase electrons in wherever it is used. And so the more electrons we have, the more alkaline our body is. The fewer electrons we have, the more acidic we are. Cancer cannot exist in an alkaline environment. It only lives in an acidic environment. So you can look at it as pH or microvolts of electricity from the electrons. The more healing occurs at a certain pH and a certain amount of electrons that are available. So photobiomodulation, whether it's a laser, whether it's a phototherapy patch, red light therapy, green light, blue light, purple light, all of those have a different effect at the mitochondria level. So you can activate different pathways with different frequencies of light. And the Greeks figured it out with heliotherapy anciently. They were doing it. Now it's much more advanced. Yeah. David Schmidt, the genius, figured out what frequencies we are emitting, what part of those could we reuse if we could get it back in the body, and how would I do that efficiently? What kind of crystal lattice structure would refract or separate the noise, and just narrow it into a frequency that would turn on a pathway, just like the laser in my office, but in a very more subtle way, using energy we're already making.
Yeah. And I thank you for using that word subtle, because a lot of people do ask me, is it really high frequency? And this is what I say to people. Just like in ancient Greece, he's worked out the right amount of frequency so as to not overload the body to go into For example, we said before, if you have, as the ancient Greeks said, everything in moderation, nothing in excess, Oracle of Delphi. If you're going to put excessive amount of frequencies in something, I might react fine to it because I'm high vibration, but someone that's low vibration may go into some sort of a shock or into
Right.
some sort of adverse. So it is the right amount of frequency, and that gives your body a little bit each day to get the end result. So if you're expecting something that's going to be, high vibration in terms of extreme, your body wouldn't be able to handle it anyway because there's so much toxins in there going on. You would be
Right.
having huge repercussions, adverse health, possibly repercussions. So,
And
Dr. Harmon,
detox
that's the way I
reaction.
kind of explain that. What do you think?
Yeah, or some kind of a really bad detox reaction. Those can
Yes,
occur
yes.
as well. Um, so you were talking about the different strength and things. I look at the phototherapy device as a mini hug.
I like it.
If you hug somebody, there's an exchange of photons, but the
Mm,
patch selects out according to the substances that are in it, amino acids, salts, sugars, stabilized oxygen. They form a different crystal lattice structure. When you look at a quartz crystal, you can tell what kind of crystal it is by the shape, and you'll get different colors from that. Well, each patch has a different combination that gives a different frequency.
absolutely. And what I wanted to say out there to people that are watching this, as you know, I have been one of the leading voices in terms of the medbed technology. As people know, our Palladian brothers and sisters have given certain humans that knowledge to be able to develop things that reverse age to 20, develop things such as what we're talking about here to help the body self-heal. So this is the first level of medbed technology. And what does the medbed technology or celestial chambers have in common? Crystals, in particularly clear quartz crystals. So David has been a genius in terms of emulating that in the wearable technology. And yes, he is working on other things that we cannot discuss in great detail for obvious reasons. But rest assured, for all those people that are waiting for when's the military going to release the medbed technology, guys, it's already available and we've just spoken about it. How to reverse aging, activate the copper peptides. Read this book, start doing what it says, and you're already doing one of the three medbed technologies. I just wanted to put that in because you mentioned quartz crystal, and quartz crystal is what was used very much so in ancient Greece, ancient Atlantis, and of course the Lemurians, and it's what also activates, along with copper and mercury and so on, free energy that was used in the 1800s. I mean, everybody who watches my videos probably knows this, but anybody new that's watching it may not know. On that note, Dr. Harmon, I just wanted to ask a very final question, which is over to you. Anything else you wanted to add, whether it's testimonials or whatever, before we close and I read a couple of paragraphs from your lovely book?
Well, the book in the book there are 91 references to studies that have been done. So it's not somebody's opinion. When I got the idea for the book, I did want to put it in readable form, so most people have no problems reading it. When it gets into the genes, the names of the genes, the numbers, and all that, it's a little bit, but still readable. And how this has helped people have reached out to me from all over the world. Really, they've told me how it helps them actually explain the potential benefits of the patch, because this technology, there were blood tests done showing that it elevates GHK. So to determine any potential benefit of using that technology, you just turn to the literature. It's been going on since 1977. That's what I put in the book. And when people ask, well, could it do this or that? You just turn to the chapter, take a picture of it, and text it to them. And
Yes.
say, this is what the research shows. Don't make any promises. Don't make any claims of curing. This is what the research shows, what the potential benefits are. So that's been very, very helpful for people globally when they're trying to share, because their relatives don't know them as a scientist. They don't know them as a healthcare provider most of the time. And so they just kind of discard any information that their brother-in-law is telling them, or somebody who's not in healthcare. So it gives you that extra edge for validating what you are saying to people about this technology.
Absolutely. And I'm going to read a couple of paragraphs from page 275. And again, everybody, at the in the description of this video on all my platforms that I will have it on, there will be a link to purchase this book, and of course where you can find this, what I use, wearable technology. Um, and thank you so much for this book, because Dr. Harmon, I have been very highly censored by YouTube and a lot of the other channels. Like, they've shut down my YouTube channel, they've shut down my Telegram, my Instagram. It's getting
A lot of
ridiculous.
that going on nowadays, that's for sure.
Yeah. So this, I can just point this from
Yeah.
from now on
Blame
my
me.
new backup channel.
Blame the book.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Just show the book. So this is, I think, a beautiful ending. Page 275, everybody. This is where I'm reading this from. This is Dr. Harmon speaking, not Maria. The use of copper peptides can be likened to turning a key and unlocking a realm of possibilities where aging is no longer considered an inevitable decline, but a continuation of life with sustained health and vitality. It suggests a future where aging gracefully isn't just about managing our normal decline, but about thriving well in our golden years and enjoying our maintained state of health and life experience. Imagine, if you will, a world where our senior years are characterized by vigor, wisdom, and an ongoing contribution to society, rather than being overshadowed by the prospect of illness, dependency, and frailty. And my friends, as you know, the ancient Greeks that followed these therapies lived to beyond 250 years old. I have all that information in my books. And if you apply what is in this book, you too have the potential to live beyond 250 years old. And that's what I wanted to say, Dr. Harmon. And I'll leave you with an end note, and then thank you.
Well, thank you for this forum to get the word out. Years ago, I sat out in my waiting room. I was still doing chiropractic, but I had expanded into oxidative medicine. And I put out this intention. I wanted to increase my circle of influence for good globally. It didn't happen until about 10 years later, but I really truly believe that this book has facilitated that. And to create that big of a ripple effect is very meaningful to me as a human being, as a healthcare provider, to help people not go into this decline into frailty and disability. Means that they're productive a lot more, in their later years. They're not, home in bed. And I've had several goals, and I'll end with this. One of my goals is that I want to remember who I am. Well, you got the cops coming after you. That's not at my house. So one of my goals has been, I want to remember who I am when I'm old. I don't want to be meeting a new person in my house every 15 minutes, 51st dates,
Yep.
And I want to be the one who's able to travel because all my parts work and I'm not hooked up to a machine. This, with copper peptides, really, really facilitates that. And I really, truly believe that using those will help you be the healthiest you can be into your later years.
Amen. On that note, as we say in Hawaii, mahalo for your time,
Mahalo.
mahalo for everything. Again, I will have link on the top of this video to the Amazon page where you can purchase this book. Highly recommended. It's very affordable, and let me tell you, I thought I knew a lot about copper peptides, but boy, was I in for a surprise. I learned a lot more. So mahalo, Dr. Harmon, and thank
Thank
you
you
so
so much. Mahalo.
God bless you.
An empowered life has no expiration date. We're all created to do incredible things, like conquer summits, catch big waves, and live our passions. As time goes on, our bodies begin to show signs that things just aren't as they used to be. Our energy levels decline, sleep patterns shift, and recovery slows. But our bodies are masterpieces of design, holding the potential to bounce back better than ever. With X39, we achieved something remarkable in the field of wellness and regenerative science that others could not. By utilizing LifeWave's unique patented technology, X39 uses light to elevate GHK-Cu, a copper peptide known to support overall health and wellness. Unlike traditional light therapy, which requires external light sources, X39 uses the body's own infrared light to naturally increase vitality, enhancing the body's flow of natural energy. For improvements in strength, stamina, performance, and overall health and well-being, with the simplicity of an affordable, non-invasive, non-transdermal patch. As we age, levels of these life-enhancing elements, which are associated with wellness and longevity, begin to decline. LifeWave invested 10 years into stem cell research, which resulted in over 70 patents. X39 was born to bring to the public a product that can support wellness in an entirely new way, supporting the production of younger, healthier cells with wearable light technology. Becoming a powerhouse is easier than you think. Harness your body's natural potential to maintain youthful energy and vitality, because life comes at you fast, but it doesn't have to pass you by. Live long, live well, live young. Be the light with LifeWave X39. LifeWave.